On today's episode of How to Make It Delicious, we're going to be making roasted potatoes, and I'm going to show you about those. If you know the pan, you know the pan. It is from the company that does the Chefs That Pamper Things. So I don't know if they'll be upset that I mentioned that or excited. I do use a lot of their stuff, and I do love the way it works. It works a lot like cast iron, and it gives you a really good flavor on the food. We'll be starting with potatoes from one of the companies that does the little bite-sized potatoes that you can roast. So we'll be roasting those. They've already been washed, and then I put them into a stainless bowl. We'll be using a Cajun seasoning. If you know a favorite one that you have, you're certainly welcome to use that one. I have a stick and a half of salted butter. I have roasted garlic that was roasted in a truffle oil. I also have, I can show you that on another episode also, how to roast your garlic. I also have about a half a pack of dry ranch mix, and then I have Italian seasoning, and then I have a little lemon pepper. Now, for those of you who don't know, lemon pepper adds a little zing to it, so it gives a little crispness that you don't always get. I also have a little cayenne pepper, a little salt, and because I'm extra, of course it is pink. And then I also have a little black pepper to add to this to taste as well. Now, everything that I'm telling you is going to be, of course, to your taste and not how I am going to tell you to do it. The only thing that I'm going to tell you to do is to make sure that you pick seasonings and taste that you like. I like this combination. It gives you a little Mediterranean and a little heat with it. Now, it's not too hot, so the kids can certainly eat it. I like to serve it with ranch as a side. I will be making this tonight to go with crab cakes that I have already made. I will also show that on another episode, and I will show you the final meal tonight. My whole thing behind this is make it delicious, is that you can have great meals on a budget that don't require a whole lot of time all the time. You can do a prep ahead of time, freeze things, get it ready. In lots of cases, you can even cook things ahead of time and freeze them for a quick, easy layout. Now, if you've noticed, I have my, and it's upside down, I have my seasonings labeled because I lay them down in my pantry this way so that then I can just pull them out much easier than the whole standing upright. They take up a whole lot of room and then you have to dig through to find them. So I lay mine down on their sides and then I have them labeled. So all my bottles, they're the same size, stack on the same side. These all stack throughout the thing. Now, I'm going to get started. I am going to warm up this roasted garlic that I did ahead of time. I use this for all sorts of things. It's really a roasted garlic confit. And then I'm also going to melt the butter, and then I'm going to show you the whole put together. I will not be cutting these apart unless I happen to have a really huge one, but I don't think I do. I think I had pre-sorted these kind of and used the bigger ones for another dish at another time. When you get your bag, that is something I do suggest, depending on what you're making with them. There's some great appetizers I can show you how to do with these potatoes as well. They're a lot of fun and they make for a great hearty snack, especially in the winter months. Okay, let me get started by melting everything and getting everything warmed up, and then I'm going to show you how to get this going. Okay, so we're back and I have the butter all melted. You can see it's all melted through. And then I've also warmed up the garlic, so now it'll be easy to kind of smash together. And even though I will want to leave some of the chunks, I do want to kind of mash it so that it goes throughout the potatoes a little easier. I don't mind the roasted garlic in a chunk because after all, I eat it all the time. So it doesn't matter to me that it is a whole chunk. You will see that I am actually just mashing this together. I mentioned earlier that I do serve this with ranch for the children so that way it kind of helps mellow out some of the spice that I put on it. I'm going to go back through my measurements right quick for you. I like to lay down a piece of parchment paper or wax paper to put my utensils on. I'm all about easy cleanup too. So with my roasted garlic, this is approximately a whole head of roasted garlic, maybe a little more. Again, it was roasted in a truffle oil, and then this is a stick and a half of salted butter melted. This is whatever your favorite Cajun seasoning is. It's probably about a 2-ounce cup. That's about how much I have in there. And then a half a pack of your dry ranch mix. Again, salt, pepper, and cayenne to taste. And again, all the seasonings are to taste. The Italian, I said Mediterranean earlier. What I meant was Italian. But it doesn't matter. You can use any type of seasonings you like. I have done these potatoes with ginger. I have done them with turmeric. I have done them with different types of flavors, kind of marrying them throughout. In the summer months, I like to do them with fresh lemon. And I grate the rind off and I put it in there and I mix it in so that it gives them an even crisper flavor than the lemon pepper. In the winter, it's a little harder to come by beautiful lemons, so I do it this way. Okay, so we're just going to start by dumping everything in because, again, although I like to be able to do stuff on a budget and I like to be budget friendly, I also want it to be relatively quick. So I'm going to start by dumping the butter. That's my oven heating up. I'm going to also dump in the garlic. Oh, pretty good. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spatula and just kind of stir this up. Now, I will not bore you with all the whole details of that because that is what it is. However, it might mix pretty quickly and we'll be good. So, and I'm not too concerned about this part because after all, I'm still adding to this. So I'm going to get the rest of that garlic because we don't leave any of that behind. Who wants to waste garlic? Okay. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle the dry ranch powder over the potatoes. I like to do this over the sink because I can set it right in the sink to go right in the dishwasher when I'm done. This is the Cajun seasoning. And again, add to your taste. If you like a whole lot, add a whole lot. If you don't, then don't. I like a whole lot. The lemon pepper, again, this is to taste. I'm going to use, you know what, let me just pour it in this little 2-ounce cup so that you have an idea of how much I'm using. Approximately an ounce. So we've got approximately an ounce of the lemon pepper that's going to go on here as well. Again, I like a lot of flavor. You can certainly adjust this down as you'd like. The Italian seasoning, it's going to be approximately 2 to 3 ounces of that as well. Now, all of these are dry. You will have to stir your potatoes in the mix because they are going to lose some of that flavor just because it's dry. And it's going to seep down off of them as they're roasting. So you're going to want to keep them kind of stirred in the seasonings so that they have that flavor. I also have a little cayenne. Again, I like it hot. That's probably a 1/4 teaspoon. A little salt, which probably isn't necessary because after all, everything else has salt in it. And the black pepper. So, about a 1/2 teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper. Okay, I'm going to stop here, stir everything up, show you what it looks like once it's stirred up. Okay, so now that we have got it all mixed together, you can tell, of course, by this that I have quite an amount of seasoning on these potatoes. Again, remember, it is going to settle to the bottom of the pan because it is butter that we have put on here. I get a lot of feedback on don't use butter, it's not good for you. Okay, well, your body knows what to do with natural stuff. So if you want to use olive oil, coconut oil, whatever, I'm okay with that. I would prefer that you used olive oil or coconut oil or butter. Again, you can mix it. So if you wanted a blend, you could do olive oil and butter. You could do olive oil or coconut oil, and butter, or a combination of any of those oils to put together on this to hold it onto the potatoes. It's not that much in the big scheme. Remember, it is going to go to the bottom of the pan. So even though you'll be tossing them in it, it's not going to be that terribly much on there in the big scheme. Okay, so now that we are about to put this into the pan that the chefs have pampered. Again, here we go. The chefs have pampered this pan. This is one of the bigger pans. It's like my lasagna pan, but I want these potatoes to kind of be one layer. I don't want them to be stacked on top of themselves. Again, we're cooking these at 375 for about 45 minutes to an hour till we're able to just smash them down. Once we're able to smash them, we're not creaming them. We're not making rustic mashed potatoes. We're simply crushing them open to allow the flavors to get inside of the little crevices so that the flavor goes all the way through the potato before the end of the project. So about 20 to 30 minutes in, we're going to check them to see if we can start smashing them. So I'm going to put these in the pan now, and then we will check back in at that. Now that we have it all in the pan, I did add a little bit of water as you can tell, just barely enough to cover the bottom between the potatoes. And I will be covering this with foil so that way it holds that in, so that it helps steam them to cook them all the way through without burning the outside edges. The last 15 to 20 minutes, I will take the tin foil off completely. And if you notice, I clean as I cook. So we'll uncover it so that they'll get a little crispness to the outside of them, and they will look golden brown and beautiful and all that good stuff. So now I'm going to cover them up and put them in the oven, and we'll check back when I go to check them to see if they're able to be soft enough to smash. I will also let you see that process, and then at the final product. I should also mention that I have a tendency to push my foil down inside of the rim, so that way it keeps everything flowing back into the pan. Make sure that you've got a good seal on your foil so that it doesn't get out of hand and you're not losing that moisture while it's cooking for the first 30 to 35 minutes. Again, we're cooking at 375. It'll take approximately 45 minutes to an hour. These will sit well in a warm place. Like if you wanted to put them in a microwave, they'll stay warm in this pan for quite some time. It does retain the heat. So you don't have to worry about them being done right on time with everything else. Now, if you have time to plan in your day to do that, that's amazing. I used to be one of those people. I could do that. I could plan a whole meal. Everything was done to the minute on the same time. Now I work. I have several things I do. So I don't have time to necessarily plan all of that. Again, this is one of my favorite places to prep, is right over my sink, because then any of the over seasoning I do goes off into the sink and I can just rinse that down the drain. Okay, gonna put these in the oven now, and then we'll check back in. Here's another one of my favorite little chef pampered dishes. This is the smaller ramekin dish that will hold like 2 crab cakes, which is what I'm cooking tonight. I'll be cooking 2 crab cakes. Now I could cook these on the stove top and do all of that sort of thing. However, I just find it's just easier to put them in the oven and bake them. You can put the olive oil, which this one is the garlic infused truffle oil that I roasted my garlic in. So I reserved that to be able to use for other times. I have this here in the pan so that it will give that fried flavor anyway, on a healthier level of just being fried, and so many different things you could fry them in. It's not the healthiest meal ever. If you want it to be healthier than that, then bake them without the oil. I want the fried texture tonight, so I will be baking them in the oil. About halfway through, I will flip it over. Now, I will be putting this in when I'm checking the potatoes so that it can be heating. Once I know that I can start smashing those potatoes and making them flat to catch all those flavors that I put in those earlier, that's when I will put this into the oven to start heating. And then I will, once it starts heating and it gets to temperature, which will be around that 375, which will take about 10 minutes, I have a gas range. So if I set it here, it starts warming ahead of time. So it sort of starts that pre-warm process. So I'll be putting those in there, and then about halfway through I will flip them and they will be done. It only takes about 20 to 22 minutes to cook crab cakes. I make mine on the larger size so that really 1 crab cake is sufficient for most people. And I also make a homemade tartar sauce. Now my tartar sauce is a sweet tartar sauce because that's what I like. You can have it with whatever you like, or just a wedge of lemon. We will also be doing lemon tonight. Now, these have been cooking for approximately 30 minutes. As you can see, like I told you, all of the spice has dripped down to the bottom. I have tossed them already in the spice and in the butter, and now I'm about to cover them and put them back in. They are not to the mashing part yet. My oil is heating up nicely on the back, so that is going well. We're about to cover these, put them back in for another 20 minutes, and then we'll check them again. So after cooking for another 20 minutes, use whatever you need to smash them. We want to break them open like this so that we can put the seasoning back on top of them. I'm using a beater mixer attachment, just kind of pressing them open and making them pop so that way we can get the ingredients through the potato. Now I'm not going to bore you with showing you how I'm doing all of these. Be careful, please don't burn yourself. And once you get all these smashed, then you're going to take and you're going to spoon the seasoning back over the top of them, and we're going to let them cook for a little longer. I'm also at this point going to put in my oil into the oven so that it can start heating up for the crab cakes. All right, be back in a minute. Once everything's all smashed, we're just going to kind of toss it in the seasoning again. Careful not to spill it over the side of the pan. You can even pick it up and just kind of scoop it over the top. Doesn't really matter as long as it gets tossed back in there. You want to make sure everything's good and coated, and then spread it back out into the bottom of the pan. Trying to leave them as whole as possible for the serving. And we are going to cover these and put them right back into the oven. Now, I have chosen peas and carrots to go along with my potatoes and my crab cakes. I'm using store brand frozen peas and carrots. You can use whichever kind of side you would like to go with your potatoes and whatever main dish. I don't want you to think that you're limited to making this meal the way that I did. I certainly love English peas on their own, and I love peas and carrots. So this is not something uncommon for me. I am very much a peas and carrots girl. So all I did was added a little water into the bottom of the pan, and I added salt and pepper, and I am going to put a little pat of butter, about 2 tablespoons for an entire package of peas and carrots. It does not take much, and I'm going to turn these on in the pot. They are in a microwavable, so you don't have to do it this way. You can microwave them if you choose. I prefer to do mine on the stovetop. You certainly are not required to do that. If you want to do them on the stovetop, it takes about 5 to 7 minutes for them to be all nice and steamed and done, and I just do them on a low to medium heat. Now, as I had mentioned before, I had pre-made my crab cakes and I had vacuum sealed them. I had frozen them and vacuum sealed them. These crab cakes have green bell pepper, red bell pepper, and crab cake mix along with some other things in them, some cooked onion and that sort of stuff, so that when they cook, that onion is not too much inside there. It has some other seasonings as well. I used a box seasoning mix to help season the crab cakes so that they would have a really good flavor. This is kind of what they look like when they come out of the freezer. So it's raw, well, it's pasteurized crab meat. It doesn't have any filler in it, so I don't use like a whole lot of breadcrumb or anything like that in it. However, it looks kind of like it's kind of smashed out and everywhere. This is about a 6-ounce crab cake. Each one of these are. And I'm going to show you how to drain that off and reform them so that they look nice, so that when I put them in, the presentation is pretty. Doesn't really matter, they're going to taste the same. If you want them to cook a little faster, you can make a crab burger out of these by flattening them out a little more and then doing them that way. I want mine to be a crab cake tonight, so I will be compressing them, making them round and thick again and all pretty. And I will be draining off this excess fluid that is now showing up. I do pre-freeze them typically before I vacuum seal them, so I'll slide them down in the bags, put them in the freezer, vacuum seal them once they're frozen so it doesn't mash them down as bad. This go round I did not do that. I had actually put them in there and then vacuum sealed them and then froze them. When you get it out, you can see it kind of looks kind of smashed and that sort of thing, so I'm going to lay them out on my parchment paper, and that way I can get them all patted out and pretty again. And I typically would do this with 2 hands and make them look more like the patty instead of the smashed burger that it looks like on the side. However, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, they're going to taste just as good no matter what they look like. And it depends on how fast you want them to cook. They will cook faster if they are thinner. Like I said, I don't want mine necessarily to cook fast. I want them to cook all the way through. I am using a pasteurized lump crab meat whenever I make my crab cakes because I don't want to run the risk of not. So there you go. And that's what they look like now. All beautiful. And we will put these in the oven. I have already put the oil in the oven. The oven is preheated with the oil in it. So now I'm going to bring these over here. I don't know if you can hear that little sizzle or not. It does have a little bit of a sizzle. And there we go. Now, I will put these back into the oven at 375 and I will set the timer for 12 minutes and then I will flip them. Now it's also time to turn on, well, in 12 minutes, so 12 minutes. So after 12 minutes, when I get ready to flip them, I will also turn up the heat if I need to on my peas. Right now I'm turning them down very low so that they can start to thaw out and cook. Remember I said that they were frozen. There you go. So I have the heat on very low, medium low, on the smallest burner on my gas stove so that they will cook. Our timer has gone off. It is time to flip the crab cakes. You can see that they're kind of boiling, frying in this oil. They are a little big still. I don't think the 12 minutes is quite enough, so I think I'm going to put them back in for like another 6 minutes. And sometimes this happens depending on how big the crab cakes are. This may be closer to an 8-ounce crab cake, so I didn't weigh them. You certainly can. I don't mean it to sound like you can't. You can weigh them and decide how big you want them to be. The size will determine how long it takes for them to cook. They're just going to go right back in here beside my potatoes. I did cover the potatoes again just until I do the flip, simply because I did not want them to dry out in the process. Again, you could take them out. You don't have to leave them in there. They're going to continue to cook for a little while. This also shows where my butter's in there. The last one did not show that. And we will check on these again in about 8 minutes. So 8 minutes in, and it's time to flip now. They have definitely firmed up a little bit. They don't feel as loose as they did before. So be careful when you're flipping these, and you'll be able to see that golden color when I get it flipped. So there you go. The golden color is showing up. Be careful not to splash yourself with the oil. And there you go. Now they will go back into the oven for another 15 minutes. I'm just going to skip over the 12 part because since we needed to cook them a little longer. So they're going to go back in for about 15 to 17 minutes and then we will check them to see. Also, I just stirred my peas and carrots and you can see that little bit of butter went a long way in here and there's a lot of water. So I'm going to turn them up a little bit to get some of that excess water off. We don't need all that water on there. There we go. And that way we'll check those also and make sure that we're coming right along with dinner. I also ended up removing the foil off the top of the potatoes so that they can brown up a little bit. I'm probably going to pull those out and toss those so that they'll get a little bit more of that crispiness. So I have pulled out the potatoes with 5 minutes left for the crab cakes to finish cooking. My peas and carrots are coming along well. The water's coming out of them. These look like I want them to. They have a little bit of snap to the skin. So that's exactly how I wanted them to look. I have my ranch dip mixed up to dip them in later. And so I'm going to stick these in the microwave so that they stay warm until everything else is ready. So as you can tell, I have taken the crab cakes out of the oven now, and they were done after the other additional 15 minutes. And so they're all done and brown and crispy and golden. And so then I'll show you them all plated up in just a minute. And so this is the final. Here's our crab cake, here's our peas and carrots, and our roasted potatoes. Now in addition to this, I also have the homemade tartar sauce that I make, which like I said is a sweet tartar sauce versus a traditional, well, I can't get that open with one hand. And then there's the ranch. Now I did actually make this ranch dip instead of using a store-bought ranch, but I did end up purchasing that. And then my tartar sauce is traditional sweet tartar sauce. It's got sweet relish and mayonnaise and that sort of thing in it. And then, of course, I have the lemon to go with it. And this is our crab cake dinner for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Please let me know if you'd like to see me cook something else in the comments. Thanks.